Alright, today I want to make a short and sweet video showing the installation process of the Speedway Motors Ford 9-inch rear disc conversion kit. It says it also covers the 8.8 Ford. The reason I bought this kit was my 63.5 Galaxy has the small bearing. This kit will cover small bearing, big bearing old style, big bearing new style, and the 8.8. So down the road, if I ever want to switch to a big bearing 9-inch or an 8.8, this disc brake kit will work. So come over here to the car. First steps you're going to do is obviously pull the wheels off, pull the drums off, and gut all your brake shoes and your wheel cylinder. This actually got taken apart months ago because everything that was in here was completely trashed, like something came loose and it just chewed everything apart. So the first thing we're gonna do is spray down these 4 flange bolts and take those out because you need to pull the axles to do this kit, because this is sandwiched between the axle bearing race and the axle tube, and then the new bracket bolts where this sits currently. So I'm going to lube those up, take those 4 bolts out, and then we're going to pull this axle. Alright, so I got those 4 bolts and studs out, and you need to pull the axle shaft and flange out. They do make a special puller for that. I don't have that, so I'm just going to put the drum on backwards, tighten a couple lug nuts down, and then I'm going to whale on it. Keep spinning it, and then that's going to drive it out. And since it's a disc conversion, I don't care about these, so if they get damaged, no biggie, but I probably will use a dead blow just in case. But yeah, I'll show you that now. Alright, I got everything taken apart and cleaned up for the most part. About to start putting it back together with the kit. Make sure you look in here and you clean all this out as well as you can. That's just a bunch of rust and debris sitting in there. So I'm going to wire brush that out, make sure it's clean, and then I'll show you how these adapters stack in here. Alright, these kits are labeled A, B, and C. You're just going to know it's the right kit by the flange and how it fits. So they are universal, meaning there's not a left and a right. They make these kits super generic. So from the axle tube, you're going to fit the spacer, and then you're going to fit your axle back in, and then you're going to check your fitment of your rotor to the flange. Alright, once you've mocked it up and made sure this bracket doesn't hit the rotor, you're good to take it semi back apart. Yeah, pull the axle back out. Hang on one sec. Alright, pull that axle back out, and then if you're going to use gaskets, you need to double it up because you have this spacer. So you'll need one between the housing and the spacer, and then between the spacer and the flange. I'm just going to use RTV. So I'll put RTV on the face of that surface, and then on the face of the flange, and then I'll bolt it all together with the bracket in there. And I'll show you what that looks like. Alright, this is the look of how the spacer plate and the first adapter plate will look on there. So now the axle's back installed. These 4 nuts are tight. T-bolts are in place. Those T-bolts might want to come out, or they might be rusted. They don't need to come out or move. They can stay there. So if, like these on mine just kind of fell out as I took them out. That's why I took them out. But then the next step is to put this flange on that the caliper can mount to. Alright, so this part of the instructions get pretty vague, but off of the pieces in the parts bag, you basically got your bolt, a lock washer, the spacer, and a lock nut. So you only have 8 of each, so obviously that is the combo you have to put this all together with. Now the only thing I don't understand, and again there's no description, I'm not sure how well that shows up. There's a taper to one side of the spacer, and at the moment I am not sure why that's like that, or what, if it's needed for clearance. I'm sure I will find out momentarily what its purpose is. So basically, I'm assuming, since there's no great instructions, I'm going to put it that way versus having it this way, because I don't know how far the nut's going to come in, plus I'm assuming that would interfere with the rotor. I'm going to try it with the taper facing out and see how wrong I am. So this is going to be a little bit of a pain in the butt trying to get all of these to kind of line up. Obviously you can just insert them one at a time if you'd like, but that wasn't bad. Just hand tighten everything. I'm going to fit the rotor, make sure nothing contacts. I'm assuming it won't. In the instructions it said to make sure that this bracket doesn't contact the heads of the T-bolts back here, which I seem to have a good amount of space, so no issue there. Okay, no issue there, plenty of room. I'm going to put a couple lug nuts on just to hold that rotor. Actually, no. I'm going to tighten these, and then I'm going to put a couple lug nuts on. Alright, these 4 bolts are all tight now. Yes, I know these are backwards. I don't want to mess up the acorn of the nut. So for holding this on, that's fine. I'm going to go grab the caliper and show you how that goes together. Alright, so ready for the caliper. This is going to be kind of a pain in the butt because of the way these stupid pads go on, but we'll struggle together. Okay. Yeah. Okay. It is a 3/8 Allen. That is one thing I'm kind of surprised about with this kit, is all the hardware so far has been SAE, not metric. I wasn't sure how Chinese this kit was going to be, so I'm glad it's got Imperial fasteners so far. Click. Okay. Now, before you tighten those, make sure your bleeder is up. Obviously, these can accidentally be flipped. The parking brake portion should be on top, bleeder on top. If the bleeder is down here, flip it to the other side. Like I said before, the brackets The way they manufacture this kit, it does not matter out of the 6 pieces of plate you're going to use which one goes in what position, because they are all just flat and the holes are symmetrical, other than that middle one, but it can only go a certain way. Caliper should be at the rear, kind of the 9:30 or 10 o'clock position. That is how it's supposed to look. Okay, so the brackets are tight, the pads are in. The way this kit works, these slide bolts kind of encompass the pads, so they really can't go anywhere. Obviously, once you compress that, they won't be able to just shake around. And then the next step is going to be parking brake and brake line. Brake line comes in down here on the bottom. There is one odd thing about the pad, this rear pad. I'll show you real quick on the other side. Okay, so on this pad assembly, you have to get, of course, okay, gotta kind of unstick these. They're not threaded in there, but they just kind of stick with the anti-rust stuff or grease or whatever this stuff is. So you pull these pins out, getting your calipers ready. One other real quick thing, make sure you slide these so they're flush back here, because if these are out like that and you go to install it, this will hit that bracket. Slide those back. So this pad is really weird. It has this clip. This clip has to go around the base of the piston. There's a ridge in the face of the piston, and this has to lock in there, and then you got to kind of feed the pad up and through. It's really kind of a goofy setup, and I think I just popped it off. Maybe not. Of course, I did the other side without a screwdriver. I'm gonna need one on this side. Let's try that again. Kind of weird. You can kind of just barely see that groove. You kind of feed it up. Nope. I don't know why they weren't installed just from the factory, so I don't have to mess with them, but I looked and they weren't. It was not sitting in the groove as described. So now I get to mess with it. Missed again. I guess I should have just recorded it on the first one, because I got it like first try. You gotta kind of swoop it. Okay, I think I got it. Maybe. There. Yep. Okay. And so now the pad's hooked onto the piston. This front pad just has paws, so they sit in these grooves and then they hook on top there. So like I said, when these pins are in there, there's nowhere for this pad to go on the front. Otherwise it just kind of flops. But yeah, that's a kind of weird thing I realized with that. Alright, Some things I've noticed so far with this kit. The factory studs on this Galaxy, when you put the disc on, the discs are a lot thicker than the drums were. So you only get like a couple threads on the lug nut. So I had to pound all the studs out and put these 3-inch 1/2 by 20 Moroso studs in. And then I also went and got new bolts for the kit, because this is the one for the other side, and the bolts aren't long enough to engage the nylon lock thread, so I didn't like that. So I put lock washers on both sides and the nylon, obviously. Kind of wish they would have mentioned the possibility of needing longer studs in the description, because I would have just ordered it all together versus waiting, you know, another week and a half to get parts and get the time to throw them in. Just things I weren't anticipating, but I'll keep putting this together and show you what's next. Alright, just finished up the disc brake installation of the Speedway Motors 9-inch conversion kit. I mean, overall the kit's not bad. It's probably the cheapest thing you're gonna find for sale. I mean, if I could go back and do it again, I'd probably buy it. I would just wish, like I said, there was some mention of possibly needing longer studs. I don't get the whole hardware not long enough issue, what that's about. I mean, they are, you can tell they are kind of Chinese quality calipers, so probably not going to last a super long time. The rubber dust boot inside is pretty low quality, I guess. The rotors seem good. Rotors are at least balanced. The rotor quality seems fine. And back on the whole caliper thing, if these last a couple years and then crap out, it's not the end of the world. You can get these GM style rebuilt calipers from your local parts store for like 20, 30, 40 bucks for rebuilt ones. OE castings, probably a little better quality of a rebuild on them. So is it the end of the world if these calipers don't last forever? No, they're pretty universally used and easy to get. The only other thing that kind of sucks about this kit is the brake line that attaches to that bracket is too short by about 1 inch. Wow, he'd want this bracket probably 2 inches farther back, so you got enough flex in this cable for suspension travel. So again, that's kind of weird. I don't know if it's just because this is a Galaxy and you use different length brackets or whatever, so I'm gonna have to cut and modify this and get this bracket farther back so this all clicks in. But it seems like the center section for the cables, I bought a new center section, and it looks like all these cables will hook right up to them and should work. But yeah, other than that, this cable either not being long enough or this just being an oddball bracket for a 9-inch or whatever. But just keep in mind, you will need to customize and modify stuff to get this to work. It's not just gonna bolt on no problem. But yeah, hope this was helpful. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one.